let's dive in and see how two brothers try to kill each other while their own father doesn't even blink. In her past life, she barely scraped 2 stars, meaning she was a literal prodigy in this one. Seeing her brother tremble with fear brings instant satisfaction now. That is the respect a powerful witch deserves. She then grabbed Leona by the collar, crying out why she was being so nice if she hated her. Zeros watched in shock. "Princess, you seem to grow kinder with every passing day." And Leona did not deny it. She was no longer the terrifying archmage of her past life. Now she had friends and family to live happily with. Zeros stayed quiet, genuinely wishing for her happiness before he finally got ready to say his goodbyes to her. He had to prepare everything before the King of Carol arrived. Hearing this, Leona's expression darkened in an instant. Now watch closely, because Lacus, the King of Carol himself, is about to pay a visit to the Empire. Hearing the news, Leona immediately ran to the Emperor, begging him to let her meet the visiting King of Carol. Even though the Emperor wanted to refuse, the little girl's constant begging and whining eventually won him over. She happily jumped into her father's arms to thank him, thinking that this time he would not slip away from her. The next morning, as Leona walked through the garden with Keith Sherry, suddenly showed up to find her. But she has no clue her brother is secretly dying of absolute cuteness over her adorable way of talking. Right behind her was her mother carrying a special gift to apologize for posing as Leona the other day. Thinking back to the gift from Ebek, Leona felt a strange, uneasy knot of anxiety tightening in her chest. Sherry guessed what she was thinking right away and urged her to just open it without fear. "I am not giving you this because I like you. Remember, we are still rivals from here on out." But as she unwrapped the package, Leona froze. The doll from Sherry looked exactly like her own mother. Right then, all the buried pain and deep longing for her mother burst out from the depths of her heart. You probably feel the same way I do. She just wanted her mom. Meanwhile, the Emperor watched from afar. Seeing Leona looking so heartbroken, the Emperor felt a sharp, heavy ache blooming deep inside his own chest. That was when he finally understood why he had done all those crazy, uncharacteristic things for her before. The truth was, he had always loved her deeply. In a flash, he was beside her holding her hand. Watch closely now, because a dark, sinister mist is creeping into the room. He held her tight, telling her not to cry, because seeing her happy was all he ever wanted. That snapped her out of it. She still had her dad and those who truly loved her. "Daddy, you are the best." What an emotional moment. The Emperor finally managed to grasp how he truly felt about his daughter. To the world, he was a ruthless killer who executed 37 siblings to seize the throne. A cold father, completely indifferent to his kids until Leona came along and made him smile at one. This was his first real step into the succession war and his first real ache seeing his little girl sad. Though he was far from a perfect father right now, his only priority was keeping Leona safe. Wanting her eternal happiness, he asked Leona if she still kept her firm goal of becoming the Empress. Her answer was a flat yes. Only by taking the throne could she pull off her grand revenge. However, her father warned her that this path would be crawling with constant, deadly dangers. Sensing instant danger, Keith and Nicole activate their magic circles immediately, taking down the hidden assassins. She knew that all too well, which is why she planned to grow stronger and swore never to kill her siblings. From today on, no one else dies in this family. "You are still far too small," he replied. "You will understand when you grow. Strength is not enough to rule. You need the backing of powerful, noble factions. Then I will work hard to win over those nobles. Besides, if I am in danger, you will save me right." Hearing her, the emperor smiled. "That is where we leave things today, hoping she wins the throne, so everyone can survive and leave safely." Let's dive into the moment the emperor locks eyes with the doll Leona holds, instantly recognizing his late wife. Memories of his beloved flooded right back. "Tell me, Leona, what did your mother write in that journal of hers?" Hearing that made Leona shudder. She could never reveal the deepest secrets of her soul to her own father. If she did, she risked losing him forever. So she sputtered that her mom promised her a beautiful, happy family. Confirming Leona is unharmed, they check the bodies, hoping to keep at least one attacker alive for questioning. "She said she loved me so much, and I love her too, even though I never got to meet her." These words shattered the emperor's heart. He bitterly wondered why his name was not even mentioned in that diary. Oprah always said the emperor was the strongest, but never once admitted she loved him. "Leona, I have duties I must leave now." Meanwhile, Rodri was busy chatting with some nobles when Leona suddenly came bursting into the room. Before he could even greet her, she demanded to know why he hid the King of Carol's imperial visit. The nobles stood frozen, shocked. She would dare speak to the first prince like that. Did she have a death wish? But the very next second, Rodri pulled her into a warm hug. "Sorry, kiddo. I was so busy it totally slipped my mind." Right after that, he began introducing her to every single noble gathered around them. Now pay close attention because Leona is ready to storm out, but then she remembers her maid's crucial advice. She always had to act charming and sweet around the high society. "Why did you hit them so hard? I did not deliver the final blow either," Harrick says as he enters. So she took a breath and flashed her cutest smile. "Hello, everyone. I am Leona." Instantly, the crowd was utterly spellbound. They literally could not believe such an adorable little angel existed on this earth. But the moment they left, she flipped back to normal. "Father ordered you to take me along to see the King of Carol." Got it. That sudden demand sparked Rodri's curiosity, making him ask if she really loathed that kingdom so much. "Absolutely. I hate it with my entire soul and dream of destroying it." Hearing this, the first prince looked highly intrigued. "What if I help you destroy them in exchange for marriage?" Before long, the banquet day arrived. Lassis was standing all by himself in a corner, looking extremely annoyed with the whole situation. How dare those fools ignore him? Who cares if he was the strongest magic swordsman on the continent? And so what if he was Hades' emperor? "Once I conquer this entire continent, they will pay for this humiliation 100-fold. Then his thoughts drifted right to Leona. Turns out he was the one who finished them off, mocking the others for being too slow to protect the princess. He knew very well she was a dragon descendant and a prodigy who mastered third-tier magic at just 3 years old. I know exactly what you're thinking. Tricking a toddler is child's play. So he approaches her, putting on a gentleman's act. Since Leona saw right through his garbage personality, she played cold, forcing Lassis to lean in close and whisper a direct threat. "You would be wise to keep our forest meeting a total secret." Little did he know he was walking straight into her trap. Leona loudly blurted out that they only met because she got completely lost in that dangerous forest full of scary demon beasts. "And besides, I remember super clearly that you called yourself the Emperor." Those words sparked angry whispers among the nobles. How dares a mere King of Carol call himself a Grand Emperor? Sensing the shifting mood, Losis tried to cover up, claiming she must have misheard him. His face turned ice cold as he asked if she thought he would ever commit such madness. His terrifying bloodlust made Leona flinch, but she definitely was not about to just sit back and take it. "You should learn from me, right, princess?" But Leona does not play his game and simply turns her back. So she dashed straight into her father's arms, crying out that she was super scared of this weird guy. "He keeps bothering me," she sobbed. At that, the Emperor stood up, releasing a freezing aura that iced the entire room. "Lacis Carel, what kind of business do you have with my daughter?" That deadly energy genuinely terrified Lacis, who quickly bowed in apology, stammering that it was the Emperor he wanted to address. The Emperor gently set Leona down before demanding he spit out exactly what he came all this way for. But Lacis's next proposal completely blew everyone's minds. "To seal our grand alliance with the Empire, I formally ask for the 12th princess's hand for my heir." Their true motives exposed. They finally made their move, but you and I both know her brothers would never stand for it, instantly drawing their glowing swords to slice up this miserable king. The ruler was no longer that ruthless, uncaring monster of the past. This time around, he was ready to risk his own life to protect his precious kids. Even her back is cute, Herrick thinks, before suddenly remembering the actual reason for his visit. And all this massive chaos started simply because Lacis dared to ask for our tiny princess's hand in marriage. Stick with me here, the condition was surrendering the Mount Kura mines to the Empire. These lands yielded endless precious gems, a move that would seal the alliance between both nations forever. But before the Emperor could even answer, Nicole and Rodri immediately stepped forward. Is this a joke? Did they ask Leona for her opinion? Exactly. Did they even ask me? Leona is going to marry me in the future. Hey, stop talking nonsense at a time like this. Rodri did not understand what was happening. I am just being completely honest here. Suddenly, Lacus snapped his fingers, instantly nullifying all the magical energy of both of them. Do not flex your power before someone stronger. Har could not take it. Why did the Emperor not step in? Was he really going to let that guy act so arrogantly right in front of the princess? He almost forgot the incredibly crucial update he came to report. He did not know that Lacus's actions had already given the Emperor the perfect excuse. Right after that, a terrifying blast of ice magic completely froze the air around them. Lisa, Carol, you are far too arrogant to attack my children in my presence. Watch closely, Rodri and Nal were stunned. It was the very first time their royal father had officially called them his children. Meanwhile, on the side, Lacis tried to speak up and defend himself, but ice already covered his body, completely trapping him. Go back to Carol right now. This is my final act of mercy. All of this was watched by a mysterious man in the distance. Seems there is nothing else. I will leave then. Just at that moment, Leona appeared, searching for Zeros. With a very serious expression, she asked him exactly when Lacis got married. Zeros thought it over carefully. About 5 years ago, I believe. I heard it was a magnificent wedding. He did not notice Leona secretly clenching her fists. Maybe she could conquer the entire continent just for fun. But right now, she was a helpless, tiny infant. He came to inform Nal that the second prince is hosting a birthday banquet in 2 days, and the Emperor demands everyone attend. 5 years ago. That meant he married right after her death. Was that why he was in such a rush to kill her? Leona could barely contain the fury burning in her heart. She was determined to tear that bastard into pieces. I bet you noticed, too, that Zeros saw her, even though he could not comprehend Leona's immense rage. Leona was mentally reviewing Lacis's actions today. Why on earth did he propose she marry his son? Besides, his gaze at that moment was identical to the one he had when he murdered her in the past. Had Losis already started to suspect her true identity? She did not know where her cover had failed, but she remembered. When she vanished, she ran into Locus inexplicably. Thinking about it, that guy must have altered her old hideout. That is why she stared directly at Zeros. Can you keep a secret? Sure, the last time I fell into the water and almost drowned, I did not even scream, though that playful smirk of Zero's did not exactly make Leona view him as a highly reliable person. Nicole panics immediately, asking if everyone includes their little baby bunny. She had no other options now. Come with me somewhere. In a flash, both reached her old residence. Some kind of magic must have been placed right here. Just as Leona was about to ask him for help, she saw Zeros already kneeling. Princess, to think you are a witch. Meanwhile, inside the palace, Nicole and Rodri showed extremely solemn expressions on their faces. They did not understand why His Majesty called them his children. Had he gone mad? Suddenly, Herrick appeared. As you can see, His Majesty has completely changed today. Hearing this, both of them were totally bewildered. Why would he suddenly change for no reason? You both should actually be thanking the princess. She awakened His Majesty's fatherly love. Though they did not answer, their expressions said it all. This feeling is so strange. I always hear Leona call him Daddy. Could I call him that too? But Rodri shut down the idea immediately. Wouldn't that be too awkward? We should just call him Father. Suddenly, Leona tugs at her sleeve, making it clear she wants to go to this grand party too. They had absolutely no idea that the Emperor had overheard their entire conversation. Both panicked instantly, completely lost on what to do. Little did they know the Emperor felt the exact same way. His ears had turned bright red. You may call me whatever you wish. She finally confessed. Leona confessed her true identity as a witch to Zeros. Pretty mind-blowing, right? And upon learning the truth, Zeros dropped to his knees. Honestly, he had always wanted to meet the witch. Princess, you knew my brother, didn't you? Seeing how serious Zeros was, Leona began to recall carefully. Get ready, because you and I will watch her run into a kid who looks exactly like Zeros, his younger brother. Just like Zeros. This guy always smiled with total indifference and was one of the few humans who could match Leona's strength. On top of that, the boy just wouldn't stop praising his amazing big brother. My brother is incredibly strong, you know. He could wipe out trash like you with one hand behind his back. Nika instantly rejects the idea without hesitation. Hearing this, tears welled up in Zeros's eyes, remembering his little brother's pure joy when he first learned magic. He truly never imagined that he held such a massive place in his brother's heart. Princess, was my brother really that strong? Leona felt confused, not understanding why Zeros suddenly asked her something like that. After thinking for a moment, she replied with absolute certainty that he was indeed a powerhouse, a true force. Hearing that, Zeros smiled warmly, thinking about how his little brother had always been his absolute greatest pride in life. Once Zeros calmed down, the two of them kept searching for the magic circle Lysis had hidden in this area. But after searching for quite a while, they found absolutely nothing. Just as they began to worry, Leona noticed the Grim Reaper statue in front of her, the same one Lysis gifted her before. Although she didn't want to believe that possibility, she ended up reaching out her hand toward the suspicious stone sculpture. Pay close attention here. Turning the statue, expecting a trap, she discovered a glowing blue magic circle carved right into the base. That prince is totally insane, making attendance dangerous. But Leona silently plots to sneak in completely on her own. It was a summoning spell. Upon detecting the witch's soul, Lathis would get an instant alert and could forcefully drag her straight to his side. Seeing this, Leona smiled with pure malice. She planned to alter the circle so that when Lathis tried to summon her, an incredibly dangerous and interesting creature would appear instead. Zeros finally understood everything at that exact moment. "Are you the witch? Does that mean you two were lovers?" "Then why do you want to kill him?" Hearing this, Leona froze completely. "He proposed to me, but instead of giving me a ring, he coldly pierced my heart with a sword." She would never in her life forget the betrayal of that tragic day. That is why, if that bastard fell into her hands, she would make him regret ever being born. Finishing up, she tossed a book to Zeros. It was a learning manual for the language of the demon realm, which made Zeros absolutely thrilled. He hugged Leona tightly, incredibly emotional that Her Highness was truly the absolute best. "I know it sounds crazy, but she has plans to rule this continent and needs to scope out the other princes." Returning to the banquet, Leona didn't see her father or the others feeling quite lonely, seeing everyone chatting happily in small groups while she stood aside. Just then a voice interrupted her thoughts. "Little Rabbit, are you looking for us? I know you would be shocked too seeing this wholesome scene. What on earth happened while she was gone?" Before she could even process it, the Emperor called her over with his arms wide open. "Leona, come here quickly." Leona smiled, scolding herself for having such silly thoughts, and immediately ran toward where the Emperor stood. "Father, I am coming." They were her real family, so loneliness had no place against such pure, absolute happiness. Meanwhile, a defeated Lassie arrived at the great temple fully aware they only backed the first crown prince. Because of this, upon meeting the bishop, he immediately confessed that Leona's body held the soul of the dreaded witch. Hearing this, the bishop was absolutely horrified, demanding that he take full responsibility for such a severe accusation. Keeping his cool, Lassie's claimed to have irrefutable proof, and suddenly a magic circle materialized in his hand. So on Gala Day, she secretly hypnotizes Keith and uses high-level flight magic to slip away undetected. It was a summoning spell linked to the witch's pocket dimension, detecting movement in a place only the true witch could open. Now he was almost entirely convinced that Leona was the reincarnated witch herself. He figured that by exposing Leona's real identity, the temple would not hesitate to act against her immediately. And when the temple and the empire inevitably clashed, he would be in the perfect position to reap all the benefits. As the summoning circle expanded with force shaking the temple, the scene that followed left Lassus completely silent and speechless. What he summoned was not the witch, but a giant ancestral wyvern, leaving the bishop utterly confused and terrified. "Latsies, is this what you call a witch?" Meanwhile, in the distance, Leona felt the altered circle activate. "I hope you enjoy my little present, Lassies." He had truly changed. The cold emperor was finally softening up. That once icy man had truly transformed. Since Leona sparked fatherly love in him, he was now learning to gently care for his other kids. Even Nikol, who had always been absolutely terrified of him, held his father's hand for the very first time. But halfway there she realizes she is completely lost, deeply regretting not checking a map beforehand. That warmth proved to him it wasn't a dream, and trust me, you and I are left wanting more. Get ready, because you and I are about to watch him enter this year's hunting tournament. He needed to hunt 2 decent magic beasts, planning to offer 1 crystal to his royal father, and give the other to Leona. Hearing this, the Emperor smiled warmly. You really adore your little sister. Very well done. Nicole's cheeks immediately flushed red. After all, it was the first time his royal father had ever praised him like this. Watching this unfold, Herrick was absolutely thrilled. It seems His Majesty is finally becoming a loving father, and he honestly owes the princess a proper thank you. But the stubborn emperor refused to admit it, asking why on earth he should go thank the young princess. Before, the princes never dared to get close, but her sweetness changed everything about you, sire. Having the princess here is a true blessing. Hearing this, the emperor slowly set down his teacup. Just then, she spots something strange on the ground stones, meticulously arranged to spell out glory of the great empire. As if you need to tell me. Meanwhile, Leona was busy planning how to expand her influence. After all, the first step to the throne was winning over the nobles, and Zeros had a great idea. Entering the upcoming hunting tournament would be the absolute perfect way to show off her immense power. Check this out. Leona started shaking right there, and Zeros thought she was terrified. But he had no idea she was shaking with pure excitement, since, as a witch, she knew monsters inside out. This time, she would prove to everyone that she was a little genius, so she asked the Emperor to let her join the hunt. Hearing her request, the Emperor flatly refused, saying it was way too dangerous for her. But she did not care one bit, because her magic had already reached the powerful 4th tier. That level of talent left the Emperor completely breathless, and Herrick's jaw dropped straight to the floor. The princess is truly a genius. Since you are not saying anything, Daddy, that means you agree. Obviously laid there to flatter the original founding emperor of the nation. Just wait. I will catch a wyvern for you, then we can roast and eat it together. It will be delicious. But unexpectedly, the moment Leona stepped out of the palace, she ran straight into Rodri. When Rodri heard that she was actually competing in the hunting tournament, deep worry showed on his face. He saw right through her. Leona wanted to win over the nobles, and he absolutely could not allow that. Just then, Sherry came running over, expressing high expectations before handing her a highly unusual object. She said she got it just for her, leaving the choice to use it up to Leona. Soon, tournament day arrived. Unbelievable, right? The nobles were already betting heavily on the final results. Many backed the first prince, while others chose the 4th prince, Nicole, since beasts feared his sun god power. However, one spectacled noble stood out from the crowd by betting absolutely all his chips on Leona. Ever since their last encounter, he had been completely captivated by how adorable the princess was. She literally needed a maid to change her diapers daily. If sheer embarrassment could kill, she'd be dead already. Once she rules, she will build something way grander and strictly outlaw anyone ever using the word cute again. Soon, Leona and the other competitors arrived. Once the rules were announced, the hunting tournament officially kicked off. But the moment Leona stepped deep into the forest, she sensed a heavy killing intent lurking in the shadows. To make things stranger, she had been searching for a long time without spotting a single demonic beast. What she did not know was that 2 sneaky figures from the temple were watching her from above. They had already gone through the trouble of driving away every monster in the area. Their sole goal was to stop Leona from winning any glory, keeping Prince Rodri's political influence safe. But right at that very moment, an absolutely unimaginable scene unfolded right in front of their eyes. A massive explosion suddenly erupted behind them, revealing a colossal magic beast with glowing, bright red eyes. The muscular priest immediately panicked, screaming about why this terrifying creature was even here. That loud commotion immediately caught Leona's attention, and she quickly realized the temple was playing dirty behind her back. Since it is like this, I have no choice but to destroy you all. With absolutely nothing better to do, she decides smashing this monument is a brilliant idea. Meanwhile, Nicole and Rodri had already secured their prey, but there was still no sign of Leona. Fearing something terrible had happened, they rushed to find Herrick. Hearing that she was missing made Herrick's heart drop, and trust me, the Emperor was standing right behind them, hearing every single word. In an instant, terrifying ice magic blanketed the entire forest, as he muttered that destroying the woods would find Leona immediately. Causing chaotic destruction fits the terrifying style of a grand witch far better anyway. Despite a magical barrier rigged to sound alarms at the slightest touch, this is absolute child's play for our witch. With a single wave, she shatters the shield, but right as she prepares to unleash chaos, an imposing figure looms behind her. It is the Emperor himself, demanding in a cold tone to know what she is doing. Leona is so terrified she can barely breathe, but luckily, Herrick suddenly appears right in the nick of time. Seeing her savior, she greets him quickly, making Herrick absolutely thrilled that she spoke to him first. Basking in her smile makes him feel on top of the world, until a sudden blow snaps him right back to reality. Pointing directly at Leona, the Emperor coldly asks what that thing is, leaving her totally stunned by his harsh words. One afternoon, while the maid took her out for a stroll, they crossed paths with the Emperor himself. Herrick sighs in deep resignation, clarifying that this is his precious, beloved daughter. Judging by His Majesty's blank expression, he clearly forgot she even existed, which is honestly completely insulting. If Herrick actually had the power to beat him in a fight, he would have buried him right then. But after patiently explaining, the ruler finally remembers. Moments later, an imposing, powerful voice booms, demanding directly to know why she is wandering there. Too frightened to answer, she flashes her absolute cutest smile, hoping to melt the Emperor's frozen icy heart. And that's where we leave it, with His Majesty completely immune to cuteness, while Herrick is totally dying of love. Come along with me, as Herrick orders her to bow down and call the Emperor Royal Father. But to his surprise, Leona puffed her cheeks through a huge tantrum, and screamed at the top of her lungs that she refused calling him Daddy instead. She begged him to carry her to the birthday banquet, and shocked everyone when the cold Emperor picked her right up in his arms. Leona was thrilled that her little act worked, but the Emperor's very next words froze her entirely to the spot. The suffocating pressure was instant, making the terrified maid drop to her knees to bow in respect. He asked her how she shattered the barrier, forcing her to think fast and pull off a perfectly clueless face. Playing completely dumb, she asked what a barrier even was, leaving the absolute ruler totally helpless against a tiny little girl. He just sat her down and ordered her to follow him to the feast, but Leona was not settling for that. She grabbed his clothes and begged to be carried again, leaving Har absolutely speechless at her sheer audacity. Knowing the Emperor's brutal temper, he feared a terrible tragedy would strike right then. Herrick quickly offered to carry her instead, but Leona rejected him, whining that only her daddy could carry her. And then another miracle happened, as the Emperor actually scooped her up, holding her gently in his arms. Nobody could believe their eyes, since His Majesty had never allowed any princess to behave so spoiled around him. To understand how insane the second prince was, if a maid placed his cutlery misaligned by just 2 millimeters, he would try to strangle her with a ruler, forcing her to beg for mercy on her knees. Now, pay attention here, because even when the fourth Prince Nicole stepped in, this absolute monster showed no mercy. Now, pay attention here. Our little princess just stares directly at this stranger, thinking he is actually pretty handsome. It was only when Nicole finally mentioned their father, the Emperor, that he decided to let the poor maid go. He warned them that if her filthy blood wouldn't ruin the emperor's mood, none of them would survive to see tomorrow. Right at that moment, the emperor walked into the hall carrying the princess. The second prince was completely shocked, but he still respectfully invited his father to take a seat. The emperor stared at Leona for a long moment, realizing she was so adorable he didn't want to let go. Reminding himself to stay neutral with all his kids, he dropped her onto a chair with total indifference. Leona tugged at the emperor's clothes, sweetly begging him to carry her again next time, too. The emperor smiled and gently pinched her cheek, causing the second prince to burn with absolute jealousy. Seeing how much his father spoiled her, he instantly decided he had to eliminate her during this banquet. He was certain the emperor wouldn't interfere since he never got involved in the fight for the throne. The emperor stared down at his daughter's silver hair and crimson-eyed traits identical to the first founder. Soon the princes gathered to eat, but Leona just stared intensely at her fork, making the second prince frown in irritation. Could she have somehow noticed the deadly poison he had coated all over her utensils? That poison was completely odorless and colorless, virtually undetectable. How could she have figured it out so easily? I know what you're thinking, but she actually just wanted to sell the silver fork, while complaining that the food was taking way too long. Starving and losing her patience, she started repeatedly banging her fork against the table to vent her frustration. However, the poison coated on the silver utensil completely lost its magical properties when hit with strong impacts. The prince watched in sheer horror as she neutralized his deadly trap in the most simple way possible. He realized he shouldn't underestimate her right as Leona noticed that absolutely everyone in the room was staring intently at her. To break the heavy tension, she tried grabbing an apple, but accidentally ended up knocking it straight onto the floor. The second prince completely lost his mind, believing she had also somehow figured out the poisoned apple. This was undeniable proof that the little baby possessed a much purer royal bloodline than his own. Determined to end her life today, he blew a sharp whistle to give the final command. Instantly, a horde of hidden assassins burst into the hall, quickly subduing all the other princes. He then ordered his archers to aim straight at the princess to finish her first, claiming that eliminating everyone made him the sole heir. Seeing this, the emperor's gaze turned incredibly dark and freezing cold. He had already known about the hidden assassins, thinking he wouldn't care who ended up dead at this feast. But the moment that arrow pointed at Leona, his heart shook, and he moved like lightning to shield her from the strike. The second prince was dumbfounded, wondering if he hadn't promised to never interfere in the wars of succession. But with a freezing voice dripping with bloodlust, the emperor replied that she was still too young to carry her own sword. She couldn't participate in this war since the royal family maintained an incredibly strict rule about succession. To fight for the throne before reaching adulthood, they had to carry their assigned sword, leaving the second prince totally powerless. He reached out his hand to test her, but suddenly a massive surge of pure mana flooded her tiny body. He apologized for his oversight. What do you and I think? Let's jump into this high-tension moment where our tiny princess is terrified for Nicole's life. Desperate, she clings to the emperor, begging him for help. Arik steps up to warn Leona that interfering is strictly forbidden. Nobody can meddle in these royal succession battles. But Nicole's sword isn't with him either. The fourth prince's weapon isn't just lost. His blade shattered in a past fight, leaving Nicole completely cornered and defenseless. He focuses his inner energy into his broken hilt, ready to fight to the death. Meanwhile, the second prince orders a barrage of ice blades directly at him. Seeing this happen, little Leona completely loses her mind in panic. Only one thought races through her mind right now. He can't die. He is my goofy older brother, and he always kept me safe. Pay close attention here. Just before the attack can shred Nicole, a glowing red magic circle erupts from Leona's tiny hand. Just like that, a massive fireball explodes, violently blasting the attackers away from the prince. The sudden pain made her tear up, so she grabbed his massive hand and chomped down on it. And just like that, every single eye in the room locks onto Leona. Well, great. Now, my big secret is out. The fact that a 3-year-old princess can cast high magic is exposed to everyone simply because she couldn't watch her silly brother get hurt. Acting on pure instinct, Leona unleashed an attack that successfully blocked every single ice sword flying his way. She had no idea the fire she threw without thinking was actually a 4th-tier spell. I mean, she's only 3 years old. In an instant, the entire hall is staring at her in absolute shock. While Leona desperately scrambles for an excuse to save face, Nicole has already rushed over to stand right in front of her. My little bunny, I had no clue you were this amazing. If you hadn't stepped in, I would have been in real trouble. Leona decides to play dumb. I don't know what happened either. That fireball just kind of appeared out of nowhere. Flustered, she shuts her eyes tight and looks away. I mean, literally, nobody is buying that terrible excuse. Bunny, you are a terrible liar. Right then, the Emperor lets slip a rare warm smile of pure pride. But the moment the fight threatened the little girl nearby, the man reacted instantly, protecting her in his arms. Too bad she didn't have any teeth yet, so it didn't hurt at all, which the Emperor found absolutely hilarious. He gently pats Leona's head, saying he never expected her to be this brilliant. It might be time to find her a tutor. With that, his smile vanishes as he glares coldly at the messy second prince, declaring that this wraps things up for today. You may leave. The second prince stands frozen in absolute shock, wondering if his royal father actually just smiled. But it wasn't at me. In the end, I disappointed him again. Meanwhile, Arik gives a thumbs up, calling the princess fantastic. He quickly catches up to the Emperor, looking extremely smug. See, I told you our little princess is truly extraordinary. Isn't this exactly what you wanted? I just hope she secures her position before the first prince makes his return. He is definitely going to support her when the time comes right. Hearing this, the Emperor looks away, remembering how sweetly Leona called him Daddy. Maybe he will. Let's pause to watch the second prince's weird way of thanking her. Leona is just confused. Does this guy hear himself? Suddenly, she spots a wound on the second prince's chest. Nicole's desperate last-ditch strike actually managed to graze him. She doesn't even cry. She just tries to bite. How fascinating. From this day on, your name shall be Leona. If Leona hadn't jumped in right when she did, both brothers would have ended up dead. Why did you save us? Does it bother you seeing us fight like this? She can't exactly admit she only wanted to save Nicole, and his survival was a total accident, right? Whatever. No explanations. Let him guess. Seeing her stay quiet, the second prince just assumes she's agreeing with his theory. Oh, so that was it. That's why you neutralized the poison I left at the feast. Leona is utterly baffled again. Poison. There was poison at the party. Suddenly, the second prince summons a block of ice. Take this for saving me. This little welcoming gift isn't much, but I'll bring you something way better next time. Leona takes a closer look only to realize it's a severed arm. Like, couldn't you ask if I wanted that first? A week flies by in the blink of an eye, while Leona walks the gardens alone. Lately, Nicole has been stuck in bed recovering. Taking his place is that crazy second prince constantly popping up to drop off the most bizarre gifts imaginable. Hopefully, your teeth grow sharp enough to survive this royal war. With that, he ordered them to take her to pick a sword. Luckily, after she rejects his weird offerings over 20 times, the guy finally seems to give up. But now, actual boredom is starting to set in. Little does she know someone is lurking behind her, boiling with rage. The very next second, this attacker delivers a heavy, painful blow right onto her tiny forehead. The culprit, the 8th prince, the strongest royal fire mage, completely jealous because her raw talent completely blows his away. Driven by pure jealousy, he decided to get rid of her today. Too bad he missed the ice-cold aura of absolute murder Leona is already radiating. With one simple flick, she zaps him 300 meters away. You and I have to admit that was absolutely epic. Let's dive into this as an arrogant prince proudly unleashes his fire magic. Leona gets ready to counter with ice, but suddenly feels a powerful presence approaching. So she slaps herself hard, leaving the 8th prince completely bewildered by her reaction. Not realizing it's the emperor approaching, Leona immediately runs over and clings to his leg. But this sword he mentioned, it was actually the elite squad of royal guards lined up before them. Daddy, he hit me and I can't win. Help me, please, she begs as the emperor sighs in defeat. He isn't blind, so he starts wondering why Leona is hiding her true strength from him. Could Harik be right about her wanting affection? Is she playing weak just to get my attention? Scooping her up gently, he warns the prince that fighting is forbidden when not carrying a sword. Have you forgotten that the 8th prince is instantly filled with deep indignation? Even though he got beaten worse, Leona begs him to scold the prince more highly, amusing her dad. For knowingly breaking the rules, you are punished for 1 week. The emperor orders, surprising even Leona. She never expected her father would go this far, so she sticks her tongue out at the defeated prince. Watch closely here because the prince tries to complain, unable to take her unfair act anymore. But he only gets a freezing glare from the emperor, coldly asking if he has an objection. They were sworn to protect the imperial family and would play a massive role in the bloody battle for the throne. Those words terrify him so much that he has no choice but to run away with his tail tucked. Feeling completely victorious, Leona snuggles against her father's chest while softly thanking him. Her father then asks why she hides her real magic in a cruel world where strength is everything. Only by showing massive power will you earn respect, he says, as Leona clenches her tiny fists. Because I still lack the strength to protect my own, she replies, revealing why she saved Nicole. Do you actually know what it means to protect someone? He asks, meeting her determined gaze. It means never letting anyone hurt your people, she says firmly, making the emperor chuckle softly. She is so young, yet carries such heavy burdens, making him decide it is time to find her a tutor. Let's meet him. To save her reckless brother from suffering, she resolves to stop hiding her true self. That was the first time she revealed her true power, summoning a magic circle of destructive flames before her family. See, in this brutal empire, if you wanted to rule, you had to assassinate every single one of your siblings. The massive fireball she unleashed successfully blocks every single attack aimed straight at her brother. Instead of pushing her away after seeing this, her family surprisingly showers her with even more love. Even her cold, distant father shamelessly starts treating her as his absolute favorite daughter. Stunned by her undeniable talent for magic, the emperor insists on finding her a truly legendary master. He has the perfect candidate in mind, Zero's the great magic tower master standing before them. Though the emperor hates admitting that this bizarre, eccentric man is the empire's top mage, Zero's is the only one qualified to teach his daughter, which is why they quickly head to his domain. Seeing the adorable girl Zero's quickly approaches, aiming to scoop her up in his arms. This instantly infuriates the Emperor, but Zero's defends himself by reminding them he is her future teacher. I must evaluate her mana flow first, he claims, while Leona's face darkens with pure disgust. And believe me, this lunatic literally slaughtered 37 of his own brothers to seize the throne. He observes her silently for a moment before casting time magic, freezing the entire room except for her. Startled, Leona demands explanations, while the mysterious magus maintains a deeply unsettling, calm demeanor. They say the imperial family of Hades shares a unique feature, the exact same eye color. But you are different. I can feel that your soul is incredibly ancient, he whispers, grabbing her hand. Who are you really? He asks, leaving the young princess shocked that her biggest secret is exposed. What is he planning, she thinks, while Zeros stares at her with growing, intrigued interest. Still refuse to be my student? He asks, smiling, as she seems to yield and reaches out. But instead, she blasts him with a powerful jolt of lightning magic. As he pulls his hand away in pain, she unleashes all her mana to shatter his time spell. Exhausted from using so much mana, she collapses, gasping. Seeing her weak, the newly unfrozen Emperor explodes in sheer rage, releasing his terrifying aura. Leaving a massive political choice to a 6-month-old baby was completely insane, making Leona question her father's sanity. And trust me, that suffocating pressure is going to leave us all breathless. Let's dive back into the drama as the Emperor demands answers about time magic. But Zeros just smiles, completely amused. You better stop using your power right now, or the princess won't be able to hold on much longer. Leona finally takes a breath, gasping after almost suffocating. The Emperor immediately warns him that he better have a very good explanation. He claims he only wanted to test Her Highness's magic without any interruptions. The princess is incredible, and I would gladly become her master. She won't refuse me, right, princess? Leona wants to say no, but Zero silently mouths a threat, reject me. And I'll tell the Emperor everything that just happened. Despair washes over Leona. She cannot believe he actually has the nerve to blackmail her. Worst of all, she's trapped. If the Emperor ever finds out another soul is inhabiting his daughter's body, he'll destroy her instantly. Left with no other option, Leona is forced to give in. Luckily, she still had all her past memories, pointing her tiny finger toward a short-haired woman in the crowd. Zero leaves with a smug smile. Later that night, Leona sits alone, looking completely stressed out. How on earth did he figure out her real identity? Honestly, that guy is just begging for a beatdown. He is absolutely insufferable. But pay attention here, that exact guy just pops up out of nowhere. Talking about me. How heartbreaking. This completely terrifies Leona because she didn't sense him at all. She definitely needs to level up her skills. He admits he's incredibly curious about her and plans to keep a very close eye on her. Naturally, he suggests that it would be much better if they got closer. Leona is totally speechless. If she actually stood a chance at beating him, she would have taken him out ages ago. Get closer. Yeah, right. Suddenly, he grabs her hand again, whispering that she'll soon be the one chasing after him. Now fully recovered, Nicole goes to visit Leona, but spots the second prince crouching suspiciously right by the entrance. What are you doing here? The room immediately erupted into whispers. Letting an infant choose her royal guard had to be some kind of joke. The second prince shooshes him and points ahead. There they see the 8th Prince Eid, looking incredibly dark and sinister. He is threatening to burn every toy rabbit in the palace and orders her elimination at the very first opportunity. But you and I both know the two princes standing outside heard every single word. Since he wants to kill the cute bunny, he must be begging for death. Furious, the second prince proposes an alliance. These two brothers, who normally fight over the dumbest things, decide to team up right then and there. And it's all because that absolute jerk, Eid, dared to threaten their adorable little sister. They plan to teach him a lesson he'll never forget. But suddenly, Ibebek's expression turns completely dark. He just turned 12. In this empire, once royals hit that age, they must leave for practical training. With very little time left to spend with his sister, he wants to shower her with as many gifts as possible. This time, instead of gifting weird stuff like blocks of ice, he prepared tons of delicious sweets. She was way too young to be dragged into this brutal royal war, yet a red magic circle sparked in her hand. Yet the emperor smiled pleased. Did his little girl actually spot someone truly unique? But right as he reaches her door, Keith blocks his path. Leona gave strict orders not to be disturbed during training. I just want to eat candy with my sister. Block me again and I'll freeze you into an ice statue. Right as they are about to throw hands. Leona finally walks out looking completely drained. Seeing her like this, he immediately asks if she needs some water. No, I'm fine. Hey, will you spar with me? Beck refuses instantly, only wanting to share a meal before leaving. Everyone on the outside always looked at him like he was crazy. In this brutal royal family, he had to play the ruthless villain. But deep down, he just wanted a warm, loving home. Since he sucks at expressing himself, he keeps all of those soft feelings locked deep inside. I won't fight you because you're weak and I need to protect you. Obviously, that completely irritates Leona. What if I win no way? If I actually beat you, you're becoming my subordinate. The guard had heard rumors that the emperor absolutely adored his newborn youngest daughter. Since she won't back down, he finally agrees, fully planning to hold back so he doesn't hurt her. But after a few rounds, he realizes he can't touch her. He has to pull out his best ice magic. If he can just freeze her feet and trap her in place, this match is over. To his absolute shock, Leona takes flight and unleashes a massive blast of fire that instantly melts his ice. He never imagined his sweet little sister was capable of using such high-level magic. And there we have it. Leona slowly walks over and extends her hand. As of today, you are my #1 subordinate. Pay attention, because you and I are about to uncover her grand mission. She knelt down to draw a symbol on the ground. Ibebek recognized it instantly. It was the crest of the Carol Kingdom. I want you to gather information on this empire and its ruler. But she completely missed the dark shadow of worry on Ibek's face. And then what Ibebek asked then, I will help you take down the King of Carol, that is all. That's why she turned down the second prince to come here, but this ordinary-looking woman hid a massive secret. She was basically sending him to a slaughterhouse. In the end, it seemed she was no different from any other noble. For the royals, failure meant death. Leona's eyes went wide. I only asked you to get some information, she said. What are you thinking? Obviously, I will be the one to destroy the King of Carol with my own 2 hands. After all, he played with her feelings and murdered her in her past life. Hearing this, Abek covered his face and began to sob. I am just a failure. I never thought you would be so kind to me. I see you truly consider me one of your own. You are far too generous. Then he promised with absolute sincerity, I will carry out the mission you have given me without fail. Shortly after he arrived at Nicole's residence. He shattered the defensive magic, and one strike broke through the wall and burst into Nicole's room. Nicole was stunned, wondering if he came to fight. Ebek just brushed off his clothes. "Nicole, what are you to Leona, anyway?" "Hey, what is wrong with you all of a sudden? Ibek continued to seeing you run to the Black Rose Palace every single day. It turns out you mean absolutely nothing to her. She was actually the most terrifying necromancer alive, possessing the dark power to raise the dead. But I am different. I actually became Leona's direct subordinate. And guess what? I am number 1. Even if you go to her now, you will only ever be number 2. Jealous Nicole was so furious he could not even speak. Pure rage was written all over his face. Pay attention here, because these two ended up brutally trading blows once again with zero mercy. Meanwhile, Zeros was bored out of his mind, spinning a pocket watch in his hand. This is so incredibly dull. Nothing interesting has been happening lately. Then he thought of Leona, that murderous glare combined with her incredibly cute face. Just thinking about her was highly entertaining. Realizing he had not seen her in a while, he decided to look for her immediately. Right at that moment, an unexpected visitor arrived. It was King Lys of Carol, the ultimate enemy Leona swore to destroy at all costs, turning his own brother into her servant. Far from being annoyed by the idea, he actually felt incredibly honored by it. He even bragged about it proudly right in front of Nicole. Nicole got so furious he lost his words, sparking another fierce, brotherly brawl. Her raw power was basically a one-woman army, proving our little princess had a brilliant future ahead. In the blink of an eye, Nicole found Leona and practically demanded to become her subordinate as well. He promised to grow stronger than Ibebek and swore to protect her life. Leona was left completely speechless by this. I mean, begging to be someone's servant is pretty bizarre, right? Still, unable to handle Nicole's constant begging, she had no choice but to agree. Overjoyed, he hugged her tightly in celebration. Since that guy Ebek is number 1, I will just be number 0. Leona only patted his head gently in response. As long as you are happy. After finally escaping Nicole, she headed straight to the library, ready to research the Carol Kingdom. Unfortunately, after searching for half a day, she only uncovered useless information. Suddenly, Zeros appeared right behind her, startling her so badly she nearly fell down the stairs. Luckily, he caught her just in time, but that close contact made her catch a scent on his body, a scent she would never forget in her entire life. It was the scent of Lassie. Consumed by rage, she instantly summoned a magical chain and wrapped it tightly around Zeros's neck. And honestly, the more she stared at the baby, the more she wanted to squeeze those adorable, chubby cheeks. This sudden, violent reaction left Zeros utterly stunned, completely unable to understand the reason behind her aggression. Leona also quickly realized she had completely overreacted. She needed a quick excuse to avoid suspicion. "Did you hug a puppy before coming here? You know, I am allergic to dog hair." As she spoke, she faked a highly convincing sneeze. Seeing this, Zeros instantly used magic to change his clothes. Leona stared at him, like she had discovered a whole new world. "What kind of magic did you just use? Do you want to learn? I can teach you." Leona's eyes instantly filled with excitement. "Of course I do. If you do not teach me, you are truly heartless." Zeros then noticed the book she was holding. "You seem very interested in the Carol Kingdom. You must have been there before, right?" Zeros did not hide anything, admitting he had met with someone from that kingdom right before coming to see her. But when Leona demanded more details, he refused to speak because he was facing a highly complicated dilemma. Her heart could barely handle the cuteness when suddenly Leona turned around and locked eyes with her. We are talking about a conflict between empires, and trust me, you and I know one wrong move ruins everything. Stick with me. We are about to see Leona grab this guy by the collar, demanding he choose her. He is her teacher. Zeros slowly pulls out a single gold coin, asking what he gets in return. Hearing this, Leona gives him a mischievous smirk. She brags about knowing how to make quick money, snaps her fingers, and a massive rain of gold coins floods the library. If you choose me, all of this treasure is yours. Zeros hesitates for a second, then kneels and promises to do his best. But Leona is not easily fooled by sweet talk. She knows talk is cheap, so she demands a spiritual oath bound by 3 incredibly strict conditions. This magical energy binds directly to his life force, meaning breaking it would cause him physical agony. He knows how dangerous this pact is, but he trusts his skills. "Give me your terms," he replies. "First, never reveal the secret of my soul. Second, until I become empress, you are completely at my beck and call." Overwhelmed with joy, the legendary necromancer fainted with a massive grin, leaving Leona completely baffled. "And finally, you must keep your ties with the Carol Empire to feed me valuable intel. This contract only lasts until she comes of age." Hearing this, Zeros can finally breathe a sigh of relief. He seriously thought he was going to be enslaved for life. He releases his magic to seal the deal, and a glowing crest appears on Leona's hand as she grins playfully at him. Now pay attention here, because she confesses those gold coins actually belong to the founding emperor Eganina. If you take them, he might destroy you. Seeing his dumbfounded face, she offers to pay him 10 gold coins a month instead. The second she finishes speaking, she uses teleportation magic to escape, leaving him standing there in total shock. The only chance he had to make a spiritual oath in his entire life completely swindled away. If the other mages ever found out, he would be a laughingstock. But how did she get Eganina's gold when he's been missing for 30 years? Suddenly, Herrick walks up. Why did she just pass out? Am I really that hideous? Whatever, I have bigger things to worry about. Who said you could meet her in secret? It would be terrible if that pretty face of yours distracted our princess. Zeros is speechless. Did you guys not literally ask me to teach her? But seeing how jealous Herrick is, Zeros decides to tease him, saying he finds the young princess quite fascinating. He says she is highly valuable for research, but a cold voice instantly interrupts him. It's the Emperor questioning those words. Okay, this is where things get incredibly tense for us. Just as both unleash their magic, ready for a showdown, Herrick steps in, warning that their power struggle will completely destroy the library. Realizing he cannot stop them any other way, he has no choice but to bring up Leona's name. "I know Her Highness loves this place, and if you destroy it, she will be deeply saddened." The Emperor takes a deep breath. "I will let this slide once, but if you dare hurt Leona, I will erase your magic tower." Zeros was absolutely furious. The most important part was that with Keith's loyalty, she was one step closer to conquering this entire continent. If it were not for his promise to keep her soul a secret, he would not take this. So he drops a threat. "Just wait and see. All of you are going to pay dearly in the future." Meanwhile, the 8th Prince Ede was fuming after getting thrashed by Null and Ebek for bothering his little sister. And while plotting his cold revenge, he receives a letter from the first prince. Could he be returning soon? The little princess never imagined that she would soon become the trigger for all the upcoming disasters. As it turns out, last night, while Leona was getting ready for bed, an assassin suddenly sneaked into her room. With no mana left after dealing with zeros, panic takes over and she squeezes her eyes shut. But the blow never lands. Opening her eyes slowly, she sees the intruder is already dead, and the one who took down the killer was none other than her loyal maid. The next morning, Leona rushes to ask her real identity. It turns out she was her mother's former guardian, Lady Eper. That triggered a massive explosion instantly, putting a stop to the brothers' brutal fight. But when Leona reached out her tiny hands, in reality, her mother was a princess from the Elon Duchy. However, the duchy was invaded by the Carol Kingdom. Left with no options, they signed a treaty marrying her mother off to the current emperor. Even today, the maid regrets it. Back then, the Carol Kingdom was no match for them. But out of nowhere, a powerful enemy mage appeared and wiped out an entire legion of their troops alone. What do you and I think is going to happen next? All right, let's dive into this wild drama together. If not for that mage, the Elon Duchy would be way better off. But the maid doesn't know she's actually Leona. In her past life as the Grand Witch, she was the absolute pillar of the Carol Kingdom. She strongly opposed attacking the Elon Duchy, but Lakis stubbornly insisted on leading the troops and starting the war. Unable to bear watching Lacey's die on the battlefield, she finally decided to step in. Asking for a sweet hug, Keith stepped back on pure instinct. Leona froze, feeling totally offended since she just wanted to be friends. If she hadn't stood by Lacus back then, the Elon Duchy wouldn't have become a vassal state to the Empire. Her mother wouldn't have been forced to marry the Emperor only to die in childbirth in the end. Seeing Leona looking so devastated, the maid assumed she missed her mother and quickly tried to comfort her. She mentioned that for Leona's 5th birthday, a diplomatic delegation from the duchy would be visiting the Empire. Among them would be the Grand Duke himself, her mother's father. Hearing this, Leona completely froze. Isn't that the king of the Elan Duchy? The one she almost completely wiped out? If he found out her true identity, she'd be doomed. Had she known, she never would have shown off her massive magic powers. Meanwhile, the 3 people waiting there had already completely lost their patience. Now, pay attention here. The second the Emperor sees Leona, he uses his magic to pull her straight into his arms. You must be tired from walking, so I'll carry you. You should thank me. Leona was baffled, he just wanted a hug. With no other option left, she realized it was time to unleash her ultimate secret weapon. Still, she played along and said, "Thanks, Dad." She had no choice but to baby her own father. Right then, the second Prince Ebek came running. He was leaving the palace and came to say goodbye to his father and Leona. But the Emperor didn't react at all, as if he couldn't care less about his departure. Leona couldn't stand the cold shoulder, so she tugged his collar. "Dad, aren't you going to wish Ebek a safe trip? Don't the books say that's exactly what you're supposed to say when someone leaves?" The maid and Herrick held their breath. How could words like that ever come out of the Emperor's mouth? "Dad, is it fine if I don't greet you when I go on a trip?" Hearing that the Emperor slowly spoke have a safe trip. Obviously, Ebek never expected this. "Thank you, Dad, and thank you to Leona." He then took Leona's tiny hand and promised he'd fulfill his end of their deal no matter what. Seeing him linger, Leona asked what he wanted. He confessed Nicole bragged about getting a head pat, and he wanted one too. The very next second, she burst into loud tears, throwing Keith into a total panic over her health. Leona was left speechless, not getting why anyone would brag about that. But she gently patted his head anyway. "You and I know he's usually cold as ice, but this little head pat makes him happy as a kid." But suddenly, Leona realized her royal father was holding on to her way tighter than before. "Don't do that again. I know you beat Ebek. Why didn't you kill him? Because he's family now." "How could I kill my own family?" Hearing this made Zeros, who was nearby, burst out laughing. After all, her royal father had literally slaughtered 37 of his own siblings to take the throne. Realizing her slip of the tongue, Leona quickly changed the subject, claiming she just didn't like killing people. The emperor actually used to think like her, but learned that showing mercy only invited brutal backstabbing betrayal. He didn't want his daughter suffering from betrayal, but he also didn't want her called a cold, heartless monster like him. He gently stroked Leona's head. As long as he was around, absolutely no one could ever harm her. She dragged a doctor inside by force, begging him to save the princess, while Leona stood there completely confused. Soon they arrived at the drawing room where the priest had been waiting patiently for quite some time. It turned out the emperor had already planned to have the high priest bestow a divine blessing upon Leona. The priest never expected the emperor to value a little girl so much. He held Leona's hand, channeling magic energy into her. While giving his blessing, he also, secretly, wanted to probe the depths of Leona's true power. To his utter shock, his own mana began rushing into Leona's body completely out of his control. "At this rate, my mana will be drained dry." Meanwhile, Leona was feeling an agonizing pain. Unable to handle the overwhelming surge of magic, she yanked her hand back. "What are you doing?" "That hurts." Seeing this, the emperor was furious. Why would a blessing cause her pain? The priest went to explain, then remembered something. So he channeled a tiny bit of mana into her hand, once more reaching a shocking conclusion. Her Highness's body is like a bottomless pit. It is unimaginable how much magic energy she can hold. She wasn't sick at all, but stick around with me to find out what happens next. And that's where we leave it today, because it seriously looks like our princess has the body of a dragon. Come with me to see this girl rumored to be a dragon descendant just because of her exotic silver hair. Because of that, the emperor himself ordered the high priest to come and give her his official blessing. Countless nobles sent gifts to win her over. Seeing this, her maid suggested hosting a massive birthday banquet, a grand move that would skyrocket Leona's prestige across the entire empire. But Leona had her own plans. Even though the emperor and her brother Nikal adored her, she still did not understand how the nobility's treacherous factions moved. So that birthday party was actually the perfect excuse to keep a very close eye on the empire's big players. Arik supported the decision. The first prince would return soon, and the princess had to secure her position in the court immediately. Leona kept hearing endless rumors about this first prince. Was that guy really as insanely powerful as everyone kept claiming? Right then, Nikal showed up to warn her to stay as far away from that terrifying first prince as possible. Let's dive into this wild mystery together. Sensing a gentle spiritual energy, the healer was completely shocked by the chaotic magic inside the young princess. He was a complete psycho who showed no mercy to the weak. In fact, Nikal had fought him and lost miserably. But he did not kill him, choosing instead to lock him up and toy with him like a helpless lab rat. That trauma still haunted him today. Hearing about such cruelty, Leona was immediately consumed by pure rage. How dare he touch her people? She decided to train Nikal herself so he could personally beat down that miserable bastard. Dragging him to the training grounds, Nikal stumbled forward, full of doubt, visibly terrified of what was about to happen. He was completely and deeply terrified of the first prince. Plus, he was the son of his great-uncle, who happened to be the Pope. Intrigued, Leona asked if the Pope was actually stronger than the Emperor. That highly uncomfortable question hit Nico right where it hurt him the most. Seeing Leona activate a magic circle to start their training, he chose to run away instantly to avoid getting hurt. Left with no choice, Leona trained alone. Now, pay attention here because she suddenly felt a massive, strange energy erupting from her body. If she isn't treated immediately, her life is in serious danger. But Leona only stared at the healer with deep suspicion. She had no idea what it was, but she could feel a massive, overwhelming force within her. Suddenly, a beam of dark magic pierced right through her shoulder. That was when someone began slowly walking up to her. It was the 8th prince, and he brought along a lethal assassin sent by the 1st prince himself. Desperate to wipe away his past humiliation, he coldly ordered his assassin to end her life right then and there. Watching that lethal dark magic flying straight at her, Leona realized she had absolutely no way of defending herself. Stopping her training so abruptly caused a severe magic backlash. Meanwhile, the assassin was already charging an even more devastating attack. Leona knew all too well that if this upcoming strike hit her, it would be her tragic end. Desperate to survive, she ignored the risk and chose to absorb that strange buildup of raw energy. A terrifying magic power exploded from her body, bracing her for one final battle to the death. Now I know what you are thinking. Epic showdown time, right? Well, think again, because both attackers randomly collapsed as a voice called her. She figured he was just a fraud since she wasn't hurting, but once he finished, she had to admit she felt incredibly relieved. Hello, Leona. I have waited for this moment for a very long time. Meanwhile, at the palace, the Emperor stood up in sheer panic, sensing both the 1st prince's return and Leona's fading life force. He rushed over to her chambers immediately. There, the 1st prince was already shamelessly mocking Leona's severe injuries. Seeing the girl's fierce resistance, he stopped playing around and ordered his men to bring in the defeated Keith and Nicole. You are not actually expecting these useless failures to save you, right? Honestly, it exceeded my expectations that you survived my assassin's lethal attack for so long. That proves your incredible strength, making you worthy of me. So, let's get married once you are a bit older. Leona stared back completely baffled. Was this absolute psycho even listening to the absolute nonsense he was spewing? My father said that for humanity's future, the strong must unite to breed the next powerful generation. Aren't you curious to see how powerful our child would be? Her only answer was shooting a fire arrow at him. Keith watched the little girl sleep, unable to resist the temptation to gently pinch her soft, chubby cheek. She absolutely despised this prince. He had the same sickening look as those twisted scientists who experimented on children. She unleashed her fire magic, engulfing the prince in flames, but completely forgot someone else was standing right there. That incredibly bold move instantly enraged the 1st prince. Since she was now his enemy, he had to completely eliminate her. Suddenly, a giant sword materialized in the air. Farewell, my interesting Leona. Watching that massive blade fall, she could not help but remember everyone who always supported her. What a tragedy. Stick around for the next chapter to see if she can survive this doom. Brace yourselves, because right now multiple lightning bolts strike from the sky to block the attack and shield her. Suddenly, a warm embrace wraps around her. That is right, her father has finally arrived, and Leona completely bursts into tears. She throws herself into the Emperor's arms, asking why he took so long. Those villains ambushed me during training. It hurt so much I almost died. As she weeps, the Emperor gently wipes her tears. They all took her for a genius, clueless that a 300-year-old witch's soul lived inside that tiny body. She was absolutely adorable looking, just like a tiny, sweet, stuffed bunny. "You will not die, because you are my daughter," he says, prompting her to hug him even tighter. Before, her father only called her princess, making this the very first time he calls her his true daughter. Begging him to teach that jerk a lesson, the exhausted little girl faints, drifting into a deep sleep. Hearing this, the first prince completely panics, suddenly remembering that this is a ruthless battle for succession. By law, even you cannot interfere, so put Leona down and let us finish our unsettled battle. A second later, the furious emperor summons razor-sharp ice spears and hurls them straight at the prince. "You insolent first prince, if my older sons butchered each other, I would not care for even a single second. But watch closely the moment they lay a finger on his precious daughter." The terrifying emperor snaps. He moves instantly to shield the little girl in his arms, absorbing every single brutal blow for her, leaving the first prince who dared to touch her critically injured. Keith quietly swore to protect the little princess with her life. Meanwhile, the girl tightly clutched a rather dirty stuffed rabbit, treating it like her absolute greatest treasure. Even after 10 days, that ice refuses to melt. Nobody expected the sovereign to be this absolutely ruthless. The bitter prince blames Leona for his downfall, swearing he will make her pay a devastating price. Without him knowing, Zeros has already bypassed the guards to enter his room. Sensing imminent danger, the prince quickly summons a magic circle. Zeros does not care, coldly stating that if the prince was not the Pope's son, he would be dead already. The shocked prince asks if he is backing the princess, and the response is a resounding yes. "So, if I do not thrash you now, I cannot face her. You crossed the line when you dared attack Her Highness." Meanwhile, our little lead recovers emotionally, remembering how her mighty father swept in to save her. In this lifetime, she is no longer alone. Naturally, she starts wondering about the mother she never got to meet. What was she really like? Come along with me as Zeros suddenly pops up, acting completely casual. But she greets him with an icy glare, furious that she almost died, while her so-called master was completely missing in action. It turned out her mother had kept that old toy ever since she was a little girl. Seeing this, Zeros casually reveals he just thrashed the first prince instantly, causing her sour attitude to pull a complete 180. "You did amazing, but once I get stronger, I will be the one delivering the payback with my own hands." When Zeros asks about the hostility, she explains that the lunatic actually proposed to her and she rejected him instantly. Hearing that, his entire expression shifts. Had he known, he would have never left that prince alive. Even if it meant making the Pope his enemy, nobody in this place is sane. So, he suggests that the two of them just run away together. But her reply completely crushes his hopes by pointing out that he is a lunatic too. Besides, her goal is to rule, so why would she leave still Zeros remains deeply unsettled by everything. He promises to give her special training soon, knowing her fierce spirit will never let anyone trample her again. On top of that, it held massive residual spiritual energy. Whenever she hugged it, that power flowed automatically into the princess. That way, once she is fully prepared, she can easily crush anyone who dares to mess with her. After shaking Zeros off, she asks Nicole if her late mother left any personal belongings behind. Learning. They are kept inside the Dandelion Palace. She sneaks in with Keith under the cover of night. However, a highly powerful defensive barrier blocks the main entrance to the palace. Only those with royal blood can pass, forcing her to leave Keith behind as she investigates alone. Staring at the desolate and incredibly tragic palace, Leona feels a heavy weight pressing her chest. If her mother were alive, she would absolutely hate her for taking her real daughter's body, wouldn't she? What she does not realize, though, the answer is actually incredibly close, is about to be revealed. The moment she steps inside a notebook, mysteriously begins flipping its pages driven by some invisible force. It is her mother's precious diary detailing everything from pregnancy to birth. March 2nd, I never imagined I would become a mother. But when she woke up, she realized she was being carried down a completely dark, eerie path. It is absolutely incredible. Over the following days, my heart filled with hope for the tiny life inside my womb. Let's dive into the painful past of a mother suffering unbearable agony deep in her womb. Haunted day after day by this agonizing torture, she even thought about the heartbreaking choice of giving up her own baby. But she fought through the pain. The emperor always told her that their little one kicked with the fierce strength of a lion. That was why she named her Leona. Reading this, our female lead realized her name was chosen with deep love long ago. It was never just some random thought from the emperor. What actually happened back then, the diary fast forwards to August 21st. The pain became so unbearable it actually put her into a deep coma. Only after a healer examined her did she finally uncover the tragic truth behind all of her intense suffering. The tiny child had lost its life force. As a mage, she could feel that her baby no longer possessed a soul. She blamed herself completely, believing her early doubts about the pregnancy had somehow shattered her unborn baby's fragile heart. Was the princess actually being kidnapped? If only she had welcomed the child as a blessing from the start, maybe her little one would have survived. Reading these heartbreaking words, Leona felt a sharp, stabbing ache echo deep inside her own chest. Now pay attention here. She turns the page to find her mother's saving grace, and a letter slips out. To her complete shock, this mysterious piece of paper held the answers to every single doubt haunting her soul. Leona was brought here because her mother traded her own life using forbidden black magic to place her soul inside this body. Even though her mother had no idea whose soul she summoned, she knew answering the call meant they must have been incredibly lonely, carrying a massive weight of pain and emptiness inside. On top of that, her mother never once believed Leona had stolen her daughter's body. Instead, she felt Leona gave her little girl a new life, writing that from the moment she was born, she was her beloved child. So please accept me as your mother, live happily, and let us meet again, as mother and daughter in the next life. Now, pay close attention here. Overhearing the maid and Keith, she realized the emperor ordered her transferred to the Black Rose Palace, leaving Keith highly suspicious. She apologized for being an imperfect mother, and reading those words, Leona could no longer hold back her rushing emotions. She was the one who should apologize. Why give up your life for someone who used to be a wicked witch? Gently brushing her mother's portrait, she remembered her past life of constant betrayal and being used by everyone. But now she had her caring brothers and the quiet, deep affection of her royal father. This was warmth she had never felt in her previous existence. Mom, I am truly happy here now, so you do not have to worry anymore. I know what you're thinking. She crossed time just to discover her mother always knew she was a reincarnated soul. Her mother felt nothing but love and regret, never once blaming her for taking over the body of her original daughter. Instead, she saw Leona as her child's savior, praying with all her heart that she would find true happiness here. At the bottom of the letter, she mentioned leaving a special garment sewn with her very own hands. Nobody had lived there for years. Rumor had it that the former first prince massacred his whole family there, leaving the place crawling with ghosts. But when Leona opened up the package, she realized the special gift was actually a vibrant red cloak. As her mother's final parting gift, it definitely had a much deeper meaning hidden inside. Meanwhile, Keith had been waiting patiently outside the room for a very long time. Fearing the worst, she tried to step inside to check on things, but a powerful magic barrier slammed her back. Luckily, Leona walked out right then, gently blowing on Keith's bruised forehead when she saw her injury. "Are you okay?" Keith was too touched to speak. How could physical pain even matter to her right now? But as they prepared to leave, the Emperor suddenly blocked their path, completely furious about their trespass into this forbidden zone. After all, Leona's mother was a legendary puppeteer, meaning lethal traps could easily be hidden inside that room. If they had been hurt, it would have been a disaster, so he decided to give Leona a tiny punishment. But clever Leona instantly saw right through her father's tough act. Because of this, she quickly stepped forward to stop him, saying she knew he was only mad because he cared so much. "I only went in because I missed Mom," she explained, spinning around in circles. "Look, I am totally fine, and my old wounds are already fully healed." The Emperor could only clear his throat awkwardly. No matter how majestic and intimidating he was to the rest of the world, he was utterly powerless against his little girl. "Do not put yourself in danger again. I do not want you getting ambushed like last time. We leave it there, but trust me, she is absolutely furious now. Stick with me to see her declare she must defeat the first prince to become empress. Why, she fears a forced marriage if she fails." Hearing this, the Emperor's face darkened completely, and his pure bloodlust erupted without any control. "Are you telling me the first prince actually dared to mention marriage to you? He also said he wanted kids with me. Claimed our baby would grow up to be incredibly powerful in the future." Harik, completely captivated by the princess's cuteness, rushed to the Emperor to beg him to cancel that incredibly cruel order. The second those words left her mouth, Keith dashed straight toward the first prince's residence. The Emperor was absolutely livid, too. His murderous aura was so icy that the edges of the ceiling began to freeze solid. Only when he saw Leona shivering from the cold did he pull back his magic fighting hard to calm himself down. "Leona, did you really so you want to become the Empress?" She did not hide it at all. "Yes, I will be the Empress, and rule the continent, though I am still weak. I wish I could get stronger faster." Hearing this, the Emperor began imagining what Leona ruling the empire would look like. "That sounds quite interesting. I suppose I will give you a little help. Follow me. I will take you somewhere great. But keep watching closely, because she is about to completely catch him off guard." Leona smiled and opened her arms wide to him, calling him Daddy. He got the hint instantly and gently picked her up. "I really cannot deny you anything." Meanwhile, Keith was already charging straight toward the first prince's palace. She once held the power to obliterate entire nations, only to be betrayed by the single human she trusted. How could he banish her there? But the Emperor revealed that Leona's mother's final wish was for her to live where she once stayed. How could he say that to a 3-year-old girl? "I cannot let him live." But suddenly he ran into Harik. Thinking about bringing him along to help, he decided to tell Harik the whole story. Predictably, this unleashed Harik's fury. How could that madman do such a thing? Still, he kept a cool head. He knew the first prince had too much security. If they went alone, it would end in total disaster. Even if they survived, they would be badly injured. But the princess just blew on my wound. Hearing that, Harik remembered Leona gently blowing on his hurts. Why are you standing there like an idiot? Let's go give that first prince a beating he will never forget. Just watch my back. I plan to get totally wrecked, so you absolutely have to carry me back home. Meanwhile, Leona and her father had already arrived in front of a truly colossal palace. Built by a brilliant alchemist from the previous royal generation, it housed an immense collection of priceless treasures. Now, seeing this, Leona was speechless. "Daddy, are you really giving me all of this?" But the emperor told her she could only choose 3 items. "Only 3 treasures, Daddy is so stingy." Despite complaining, she went to pick her treasures super excited. Honestly, you and I would do the exact same thing. To her, getting 3 treasures was incredible. First, she chose an anti-holy magic bracelet for Keith, so he would never lose to the prince's minions again. Next, she picked a magic ring capable of spatial teleportation. With this, she could return to her past life's shelter, where she kept tons of useful items. Watching her, the emperor could not help but sigh with deep admiration. She has an amazing eye for quality for someone so small. To him, she was choosing items specifically to counter the first prince, so he assumed her third choice would be a treasure related to blizzard magic. Yet, to his surprise, Leona chose a very simple necklace. Why pick that one is Daddy curious. Her only hope was Keith, the strongest necromancer on the continent, to keep her safe. But Leona wasn't afraid, she was actually super curious. I am not telling you. In the entire empire, she was the only one who dared speak to him like that. The moment she returned, Leona collapsed onto her bed. Another exhausting day. But right as she went to rest, knocking echoed outside. It turned out to be Herrick. The wounds covering his body were the clear proof of his hard work today. "Princess, hurry and blow on my wound. I am literally dying of pain right here." Suddenly, Keith appeared and stomped hard right on his back. "Princess, I will handle him. Please rest." Early the next morning, Leona focused on the notebook again. In her past life, she never once heard her mother's name. Logically, as the emperor's consort, her mother should have been a very well-known woman. Because of that, she decided to check her mother's diary again, hoping to find the hidden truth. To her surprise, a magical restriction spell had been cast directly over the diary to prevent reading. If she wanted to keep reading, she had to raise her internal mana to level 6. Why would her mother do this? She felt the exact same spiritual energy as her stuffed bunny, and as they drew closer, the power got way stronger. Was she worried about danger? Suddenly, purple magic flared up. And trust me, you and I know exactly who Zeros is. Let us dive into this and find out why he takes Leona for special training. Until now, she only used her massive mana to cast spells completely ignoring magic theory. And Zeros, the legendary mage who destroyed half the continent, would easily make her stronger under his guidance. Meanwhile, the Emperor recalled those chaotic days. If Leona was in even the slightest danger, he would panic. He would accept her wildest demands without a single second of hesitation. He even interfered in the royal succession battle for her not fully understanding his own strange behavior. Just then, Herrick walked in complaining about the first prince while feeling deeply worried for little Leona. How could such a tiny girl stand a chance against that palace lunatic? He hoped the ruler would step in, but the emperor acted cold, claiming he would stay out of succession fights. So she kept waving her tiny hands, demanding the maid hurry up and take her inside. Suddenly, a vassal reported that Leona and the magic tower master had headed to the training grounds. Hearing this, the emperor could not hold back any more. He grabbed Herrick and dashed out, leaving Herrick to sigh at just how incredibly hypocritical his lord was. Meanwhile, Zeros was channeling mana into Leona to wake up the massive, latent power sleeping inside her. But watch closely, she suddenly feels that exact same sharp pain from the priestly blessing. Zeros assumed she felt unsafe there, so he suggested moving to somewhere private like her room. That sparked a brilliant idea for Leona, who instantly activated a teleportation circle and vanished. Seconds later, she appeared outside a mysterious cave, her old secret hideout from her past life. To her, this was the safest place on Earth where her soul found the peace to focus on magic. But she had barely started practicing when a massive shadow silently loomed right behind her. Suddenly, a dark figure blocked their path. It was none other than the fourth prince, Nikol. It was Lacus asking if she was lost, while Leona stood frozen, overwhelmed by a flood of memories. Assuming the kid was too terrified, Lacus reached out his hand to lift her off the ground. Suddenly, a massive, magical blast stopped him cold. Zeros had arrived just in time to rescue her. Shielding Leona behind his back, he glared at the untrustworthy stranger. "Princess, I finally found you. If you do not return now, the Emperor will wage war on the magic tower." Then he picked her up. Hearing those words, Lacus immediately put two and two together regarding the girl's true identity. "Since the Emperor treasures her so much, I cannot let her walk away so easily." Meanwhile, Leona snapped back. "I know what you are thinking. She cannot defeat him yet, but her sarcasm is top tier." She knew Lacus relied way too much on his good looks, so she ruthlessly insulted his face, declaring Zeros was 10,000 times more handsome than him. He planned to intimidate and assert his authority over a baby who wasn't even a year old. But that was before he arrived. Naturally, this ticked Lacus off, but he could not lower himself to argue with a little kid. Meanwhile, Zeros was blushing hard, his heart racing. He felt that if she kept praising him, he would lose it. "We must leave right now." He activated his teleportation magic, sweeping Leona away to a vast green plain. Seeing how Leona acted, it was obvious she shared a deeply complicated history with Lacus. Zeros knew her compliments were just to mock Lacus, but she would never reveal her past connection. It annoyed him that her first display of affection was purely meant to irritate that guy. If he had realized that sooner, he would have beaten him up before leaving. On the other hand, Lys was reeling, since it was his very first time being called ugly. He did not get why, but that little girl felt strangely familiar. Plus, what was the Empire's princess doing here? It seemed he would have to visit the Empire. Hari, watching from the sidelines, complained internally. Catching sight of Leona's face, he froze completely. How could a little girl be so incredibly cute? He used to act completely indifferent, but look at him now, totally obsessed with that little brat. Meanwhile, Leona, completely oblivious, kept focusing on her training until Zeros suddenly broke her focus. "You must return to the palace. Right now. You have been missing for a whole week." Leona froze in shock. Had she not been training for just a split second? How could so much time have passed? And trust me, she will need to invent a massive excuse or things are going to get incredibly ugly. Zeros did not want to waste any time as the Emperor had been mercilessly torturing him all week. Let's dive in and see how Leona gets a genius idea after hearing that. "What if I blame this whole mess on you?" Zeros was speechless. "If you really want my head, just say it. No need to make a massive drama out of it." Having no choice left, Zeros made up a quick excuse. He claimed she accidentally fell into the terrifying demonic beast forest. After all, once you entered that cursed wasteland, tracking you was completely impossible. He felt like his heart would explode right out of his chest. But then he noticed the dirty stuffed toy she was holding. Leona absolutely loved the idea, so she decided it was finally time to head back to the palace. On the way back, she suddenly remembered Zeros had shady deals with the Carol Kingdom. Without hesitating for a second, she demanded answers. Seeing his silence, Leona pulled a highly unique magic necklace out of her pocket. "I made this just for you," she said. With such a tempting offer on the table, Zeros could not say no. But he demanded she share a secret in return. It turns out Zeros once had a younger brother who was an absolute prodigy, a genius born only once a century. Even the Grand Master of the Magic Tower traveled in person just to recruit the brilliant boy to their prestigious ranks. Zeros, however, failed the magic exam twice. Watching the massive power gap widen between them absolutely tore his pride to pieces. Poisonous jealousy and deep insecurity consumed him. Eventually, he abandoned his family and went off to train all on his own. After 50 long, grueling years, he finally grasped the massive strength he always craved. Finally, he could stand proudly before his brother as someone worthy of true respect and admiration. "Why are you giving her that garbage? Throw it away. A gorgeous little sister deserves expensive fine toys bought only by me." Pay attention here, because to prove his strength, he dragged his brother straight into a dragon nest, unleashing absolute horror. Against such a terrifying, overwhelming monster, they never stood a single chance of fighting back. Thanks to Zeros's foolish pride and arrogance, his little brother was left trapped in that cave, costing him his life. Suddenly, Leona interrupted his tragic sob story, telling him he was a genius too, and should not envy anyone else. Besides, the dead stay dead. No matter how terrifying the King of Carol is, he cannot bring people back to life. Zeros stumbled back 2 steps completely stunned. He never expected a girl like her to actually try and comfort him. Normally, he would have assumed she lost her mind, but he quickly snapped out of it, masking his shock with indifference. "Now it is your turn. What is your connection to the King of Carol?" At those words, Leona silently clenched her fists. That absolute bastard must die at all costs, no matter what. Surprised, Zeros asked if she really had to go that far. "Okay, you and I both know the answer is a hard yes. He has no idea of the hell she survived. Now reborn as the youngest princess of the royal family, she was absolutely determined to get her sweet revenge. It is the only thing that makes sense." Suddenly, the maid clarified that it was the final gift from her late mother. That man must die. But before Zeros could even respond, Herrick and Keith came running toward them. "Princess, we finally found you." Neither noticed that behind her, Zeros was quietly fighting back tears of immense sorrow. Perhaps when that fateful day arrives, we will be mortal enemies. In the blink of an eye, Leona was back home. The tension was insane. The entire palace was locked in a deadly, suffocating silence that made it hard to breathe. "Where on earth have you been all this time?" Leona, hearing this, she tried sweet-talking him. "Daddy, I missed you so much. I completely messed up my long-distance teleportation spell and accidentally dropped right into that terrifying forest. I barely made it out alive. I am so sorry for worrying you, Daddy." Suddenly, the Emperor brutally grabbed her by the neck. Surviving that cursed forest completely unharmed at her age proved she was without a doubt his absolute favorite and most gifted child. After checking every inch of her for scratches, he let go, dropping her onto the cold, hard floor without mercy. "You are officially grounded for an entire week. Maybe that will teach you not to pull stupid stunts like this. Can you believe this?" Such a sweet child with a tragic past, and he'd come out here with the sole intention of teasing her. Leona felt that was way too extreme, but she dared not speak up, seeing how incredibly furious her father was. The moment she left, the Emperor summoned the High Mage, ordering him to seal the castle with a barrier, blocking all long-distance teleportation. Hearing this, the terrified mage warned him it would completely drain the imperial treasury. But the Emperor did not care one bit. Do it now. If my daughter is ever in danger again, I will personally chop you to pieces and feed you to pigs. Meanwhile, Leona was literally dying of absolute boredom. What on earth was she supposed to do, locked up for 7 whole days? Right then, Keith entered her room carrying an elegant box delivering a special gift and letter from the second Prince Ebek. It turns out that even though he was far away in the Carl Kingdom, he never stopped watching over her. Hearing she was missing, Ebek wanted to rush right back to protect her. Still, he had promised Leona he would dig deep into some highly critical matters over in the Carl Kingdom. He felt like an absolute monster. So, he told her not to live such a pitiful life from now on. He successfully infiltrated a mercenary group, promising not to fail. And that is where we leave things today, with Leona deeply moved. Let us dive in and see what kind of insane gift he just sent. But opening that box revealed the severed bloody head of a mercenary leader. This little girl never expected a decapitated head as a gift from her older brother. Talk about an absolute psychopath who hoards human body parts. The second Leona opened that package, she was frozen in pure horror. Even after a sleepless night, she still could not shake off the terrifying trauma. Right then, Nicole happily ran over wanting to play. But she instantly spotted the fresh nasty bruises all over his face. "Did someone beat you up?" Panicking Nicole quickly lied, claiming a magic practice accident caused it. Little did she know the actual culprit behind these injuries was the first prince. While Leona was missing, the first prince cornered Nicole. Realizing how close they were, the twisted prince planned to end his life right then and there. Then, raising his hand, he released a gentle wave of spiritual energy. It was the actual blessing of the sun god. "Do not worry, Ebek will join you in the afterlife very soon. As for that precious Leona you love so much, I am saving her for last." Luckily, Princess Sherry intervened. Now pay attention here, watch how Leona snaps her friend out of his dark, depressing thoughts. Her tiny hand glowed with a gentle healing magic, leaving Nicole completely speechless and deeply touched. "I am going to brag to Herrick to make him jealous." Hearing that, Leona froze. She desperately wanted to lock her doors before she died of pure annoyance. But right then, a mysterious bald man knocked. Meet Adai, the fourth sage of the Ivory Tower, ordered to tutor Leona. He absolutely hated this assignment. What book could a 3-year-old toddler possibly understand? He was fully ready to put her in her place. Too bad Leona had the exact same idea. She was determined to chase this highly annoying teacher away at all costs. Pulling out heavy books from his bag, he smugly said he heard the young princess absolutely loved reading. Leona reached out her tiny hand to catch it, feeling a wonderfully cozy warmth. Let us test her then. Unbelievably, Leona just glanced at the title and recited the entire book word for word. The bald man was so stunned that if he had any hair left, it would have fallen out. From history to advanced physics, she answered everything fluently. The old tutor started deeply questioning his own reality. How could a 3-year-old child know all this? Did she start studying while inside the womb? Honestly, Leona was completely done with this interrogation. Sending someone like him to teach her was highly insulting. Furious, the bald tutor glared with wide eyes and slammed a massive book right onto the desk. You and I know how arrogant these high and mighty scholars get. With complete confidence, he swore he would never return. He even promised to wash his bald head standing on his hands. But Leona realized the book cover was human skin. This dark, cursed book almost definitely originated from the depths of the demon realm itself. To this day, that forbidden language remains completely undeciphered. No wonder the bald man felt so smug. Nicole desperately wanted to hold that chubby hand, but pulled it away, announcing his departure while warning them to leave the door unlocked. But what he forgot was that Leona was a legendary witch in her past life. This was child's play. Why not bet on something more practical? At that moment, the stubborn scholar was absolutely fuming. If you translate this text by tomorrow, I will pay you 10,000 gold coins instantly. Leona headed straight to the library. She had to pretend to study to avoid raising any suspicions. Suddenly, she ran into Zero's. He was totally shocked to find the little princess hanging out in the library. Leona then proceeded to spill every single detail about her insane bet with that arrogant bald tutor. Zero's immediately recognized that demon book. That guy completely crossed the line. Do you want me to go beat him up? However, Leona did not seem to care. After all, she was a reborn genius. Reading this was child's play. Hearing her supreme confidence left Zeros completely speechless for quite a long time. For years, he basically lived in the library researching that exact writing. Shaking, he bowed and begged her to teach him. However, Keith and the maid silently agreed to lock that door as fast as humanly possible. Leona coldly rejected him without a single second thought. She knew he wanted to revive his dead brother, but the deceased cannot return. That is an unalterable reality. Zeros fell silent, instantly losing his typical cheerful smile. You did not live my life, do not speak of it lightly. You simply cannot comprehend the crushing, silent pain that I carry in my heart. Suddenly, Leona kicked him. What do you know about me? Since you know my true soul, did you think I lived centuries without wanting to revive someone? Stick with me to see what happens next, but I would never make that same choice. Honestly, I do not even want to understand your mindset. Things ended terribly for them. Stick with me as we find out what happens next. Leona won her bet against the bald man, but she could not feel happy. Soon, she decided to demand something massive from him. She wanted the great sage to be her teacher, since his wisdom supposedly far surpassed any normal human. They couldn't let him bother the princess again. In the blink of an eye, 2.5 years passed, and Leona was now 3. For Zeros' sake, she was determined to ask him directly if the dead could actually be brought back to life. Meanwhile, the first prince had managed to track Nicole down once again. You got lucky escaping last time, but things changed today. In an instant, he summoned multiple glowing swords and launched them right at Nell. Right on time, Leona crashed in. You are dead, she roared, launching her assault. She was finally making her move. To save Nicole from danger, Leona launched a direct head-on strike at the prince. Massive fireballs summoned from above rained down successfully, forcing both fighters to separate. Leona's face burned with pure, unbridled rage. It was entirely his fault that Nal had been hurt. Unleashing her magic, she hurled colossal boulders right at the first prince. But a low-level spell like that was absolutely nothing to him. With a single swift sweep of his greatsword, he effortlessly deflected every single rock coming his way. Leona, I have not seen you in days, and yet you have somehow grown even more powerful. By then, she had learned to walk and talk perfectly fine. The only thing that hadn't changed. She was still as precious as ever. Watch this next part closely. Leona was a powerhouse, but the thick smoke completely blinded her to the prince's location. Before Leona could even react, the prince used the cover of smoke to teleport directly in front of her blade drawn. At this range, there is no dodging my blade. He had no idea Leona had an ace up her sleeve, her spatial magic necklace. Suddenly, a magical crest manifested right behind the prince. Out of that glowing circle erupted the exact same devastating fireballs that Leona had summoned earlier. Let me return your own words. At this close range, you cannot dodge this either. As expected, the massive fireballs blasted the first prince back over 300 meters. But just as Leona went to finish him, his blade countered. What the prince did not anticipate was that Keith had been lying in wait for him this whole time. Armed with the powerful treasure Leona gave her, Keith was absolutely confident in her ultimate victory. In an instant, Keith summoned a colossal magma beast covered in roaring flames. Nicole visited almost daily, constantly reaching out his mischievous hands to pinch her soft, chubby cheeks. With one crushing blow, it flattened the prince's paladin so hard he could not get up while the emperor watched from afar. Seeing this play out finally made him realize Leona's true genius behind choosing that spatial necklace. That little girl is truly incredible. It seems I no longer have to worry about her safety. Unfortunately for the emperor, that unconscious smirk on his face did not slip past the sharp-eyed Herrick. Just as I thought your majesty is also quite proud of our princess, right? Hearing this, the emperor blushed and cleared his throat. Did I look proud? With that, the battle ended in Leona's complete victory. Your majesty, the princess, has won the match. She is truly magnificent. He pretended to ignore Herrick, but you and I both know he was secretly thrilled inside. In fact, his heart was practically overflowing. Right then, Herrick handed him a letter sent by the King of Carol. Surprisingly, the emperor barely glanced at it before instantly burning it to ashes with a flick of his wrist. She tried focusing, searching for any spiritual energy hiding inside her new baby body. But Keith blocked him every single time, leading to constant bickering, as if they were competing for the little girl's affection. What kind of absolute garbage dares to write to me? Meanwhile, the defeated prince was left looking completely pale. In succession wars, defeat meant only one thing. Just kill me, he said. But Leona was far too used to this. I only wanted to beat you up, not kill you. Saying this, she stretched out her chubby little hand. Unless you want another beating, become my loyal subordinate. The first prince was left absolutely dumbfounded by her offer. He never expected to live. Stumbling to his feet, he asked if she was truly sure about keeping someone so dangerous close. But Leona completely ignored him and, simply muttering to herself that Nicole would be registered as number 100. Ebek is 11, so you hearing this, a faint, amused smirk finally appeared on the prince's lips. How intriguing, he said, taking Leona's tiny hand. In that case, I will be number 100 and help recruit the rest. In the blink of an eye, 2.5 days quickly passed by. Nicole woke up with a start, only to find that his severe wounds were already almost entirely healed. Watching them, Leona's expression darkened as painful memories from her past life flashed before her eyes. Leona had been nursing him. She snapped, "Didn't I tell you to warn me? Stay tuned to see how they rebuild their lives. You and I are jumping into absolute madness." Nicole would rather take a beating than ask his little sister for help. What kind of older brother begs his baby sister for rescue, right? but Leona knows that family always protects their own. Besides, in her eyes, shielding her followers is the most sacred duty of any true leader. Hearing this touches Nicole so deeply that with tears welling up, he hugs her with all his might. He pours out his thanks even though Leona honestly has no clue why she even said that. She just felt a warm flutter in her chest since the whole concept of family still feels so foreign. Suddenly, Herrick bursts in showering Leona with over-the-top praise with the Emperor himself trailing right behind. The very first thing the Emperor does upon entering is scoop little Leona up in a warm embrace. But his pride won't let him praise her directly. Instead, he just sternly warns her to be more careful from now on. In her previous life, while wandering alone down freezing streets, she accidentally crossed paths with a mysterious man. Word has already spread like wildfire that she defeated the first prince. This means the nobles loyal to the first prince will now try to win Leona over at all costs. With no real political backing yet, our little princess is the perfect target for those greedy nobles to manipulate. But she does not care about any of that, confidently pointing out she has Herrick and Keith by her side. Along with the first prince Rodri, she now has Ebec and Nal. And even that stubborn bald master who used to train her has sworn his loyalty. Hearing this, the Emperor is absolutely stunned. He never expected her to tame that arrogant old man, realizing his tiny daughter is truly growing up. Now, pay attention, because that very night Keith catches her alone to drop a question that will freeze you in your tracks. Princess, is your soul different? This is bad. Keith had just uncovered Leona's absolute biggest secret, that she is a reincarnated soul. That sudden revelation instantly snaps Leona out of her deep sleep, leaving her completely paralyzed with fear. He offered her a piece of bread and promised to look after her. Being young and innocent, she had no reason to suspect his kindness. Turns out, Keith accidentally overheard the heated argument Leona had with Zeros in the library a few days ago. But don't worry, she has zero bad intentions. As a necromancer, her sensitivity to souls is off the charts, so she always knew Leona wasn't a normal kid. I am so sorry for eavesdropping on your conversation, Princess. Hearing that apology, Leona feels a wave of guilt as tears well up in her eyes. To her, Keith, her maid Ling, and the others are her precious family, and there should be no secrets between them. Even so, she desperately begs Keith to keep the secret trembling from the sheer terror eating her alive. She fears that if they learn who she is, everyone will turn their backs. I know what you're thinking. And yes, it breaks my heart too, seeing her so afraid of losing the only home she has ever known. Deeply moved. Keith gently strokes her head, asking how much she had to suffer all alone. So she grew to trust him, following him absolutely everywhere he went. She reassures her that the danger is gone, promising to always protect her, and that everyone will love her unconditionally. Those words bring Leona comfort, even though the trauma of her past remains deeply carved into her soul. Even if I tell you I'm a witch, would you still stay? Keith's answer is a resounding yes. To her, Leona is just Leona, whom she swore to protect no matter what. Hearing this, the knot in her heart completely untangles. So she begins sharing her tragic past, from wandering alone on freezing streets and being used in cruel human experiments to becoming the world's only grand witch. And then how she met Lassus, who ruthlessly betrayed and murdered her without mercy. Her entire past life was defined by absolute loneliness and being abused by everyone around her. Only after being reborn in this world and meeting them did Leona finally dare to trust people again. As she speaks, she cannot help but throw herself into Keith's warm embrace. You all are the ones who taught me what a warm home feels like. I'm so happy now, she confesses, deeply touching Keith. She believed she would never starve again with absolutely no idea that endless torture was actually waiting for her. Even though Keith isn't great with comforting words in moments like this, in her mind she's already plotting a bloody, brutal revenge against the guy who hurt her. With total seriousness, she promises to never reveal her secret, though she suddenly realizes something doesn't quite add up. Why does that Zeros guy get the special privilege of sharing this massive secret alone with her? I'll definitely have to give him a good beating soon. Leona just stares at her, completely clueless. So, what do you and I take from this? Sharing your heavy burdens with the right people truly changes everything. I'm just glad our girl is finally happy. Come along with me to see how Keith was smiling so happily every single day. He was now one of the few who knew the princess's biggest secret, all while Leona was outshining everyone in the palace. The endless daily parade of visitors had her absolutely exhausted, and that was exactly when the sixth Princess Sherry decided to show up. But the second she stepped inside, Keith held a dagger to her throat since he had no clue who she was. It turned out he was obsessed with injecting demonic power into human hosts to forge the ultimate weapons. Surprisingly, Sherry pushed the weapon aside with absolute calm. Your sword is pretty impressive. She then revealed her identity, claiming she came to play with Leona, who flatly shot her down, saying she was busy and needed an appointment. Besides, almost all the time slots for that day were already taken by other nobles. But much to Leona's shock, Sherry threw a massive public tantrum, refusing to leave no matter what. Hey, you are older than me, why act like a spoiled brat? Though Sherry did not care at all. I heard you are incredible, that you did not just save Nicole, but also defeated the first prince. Those words definitely stroked Leona's pride, who confidently replied that, of course, she was the absolute best. Hearing this, Sherry smiled mischievously, hoping that was true. After such a chaotic day, Leona collapsed onto her bed, completely wiped out. Now, pay close attention here, because right as she was about to rest, a maid approached her. Endless children died in those horrific experiments. But Leona survived time and again, eventually transforming into a powerful witch. She warned her to watch out for Sherry since she was likely allied with the 8th Prince Ede. On top of that, there were still many royal siblings she had not met, and Leona was the main target. She had to stay alert at all times. After thinking it over, Leona took the advice and promised to be careful. Seeing this, the maid was deeply touched since it was rare for Leona to actually listen to warnings. So, with great tenderness, she reminded her again not to get hurt and to grow up living a happy life. They promised to protect and love her forever. And to think a brilliant sage accepted a 3-year-old as his master. Because of that, he spent every day camping outside her door begging her to give him at least one quick lesson. The nobles just could not understand how a tiny girl could keep the kingdom's 4th sage waiting like that. But that only enraged the bald sage, who considered Leona to be the greatest scholar and, above all, his master. Let's be honest, if she were not a direct heir to the royal throne, armed with that power, her first move was escaping that living hell, though fate eventually brought them together once more. He would have taken her to the great Tower of Wisdom a long time ago. So, if any fool dares disrespect my master again, do not blame me if I show no mercy. Meanwhile, Leona was walking through the palace when she crossed paths with the emperor and his entourage, immediately spotting Zeros nearby. "Why did you not visit me lately?" Zeros froze, having never imagined she was actually waiting for him all this time. But the very next second, Leona grabbed him by the ear to go talk completely alone. Seeing this, the emperor clenched his fists in fury, annoyed that she did not even greet him before leaving with Zeros. Starting today, I forbid the master of the magic tower from ever stepping into this palace." In a flash, they reached the library, and Leona sheepishly said she was sorry. She should not have lost her temper the other day, though honestly, Zeros did not feel great either. He did not understand Leona's painful past, and never should have said that, plus, as an adult, he was forcing a child to apologize first. Out of sheer pity, Leona saved his life and used her insane strength to help him ascend the throne. He was absolutely a fool. Right as he was about to apologize, Leona abruptly cut him off. "Keith found out about my soul because he eavesdropped on our conversation in the library." Hearing this, Zeros's head started spinning because he had caused so much trouble. It was no longer a secret between just the two of them, and as he panicked, Leona yanked his hair. "Can you not just be normal? I am so sorry. I really messed up with what I said that day." Leona felt a deep doubt and asked him directly if he planned on cutting ties with Lacey's. Of course, Zeros refused since he just could not let go of his obsession with his brother. Instead, he warned her to be extremely careful because Lacey's was far more dangerous than she realized. Zeros was stunned for a second, but to keep her from worrying, he put back on his usual carefree face. "I am the leader of the Great Magic Tower, so rest assured I will take proper precautions." And what she discovered immediately blew her mind. Her spiritual power was already close to a 5-star level. And that is how she ended up trusting nobody, but let's see how Nicole suddenly snaps her out of those thoughts in this life. And that is where we leave it today with an endless line of people desperate to meet our little lead. Get ready, you and I are watching our female lead fight for her destiny. As everyone bickered over Leona, the first Prince Rodri slammed the door open and crashed their little party without warning. A dead silence filled the room. "I have something to say to Leona, so get out of my sight right now." Sure, and Nicole tried to protest, but Rodri was already channeling his magic. "If you won't leave peacefully, I'll force you." Leona glared at him. "Do you really think you can start a fight in my own palace?" But incredibly, Rodri's spell transformed into a flower. "Of course, I'd never be so rude to you, my dear. I just wanted to give you this." But as Leona stood there confused, the prince's eyes turned ice cold again. "Are you still here?" Faced with the first prince's terrifyingly massive pressure, the others had no choice but to retreat. Rodri's only goal today was to lock down a marriage proposal with Leona. All right, you and I are about to watch him freak out over her sad face and run for help. Even if he was just her subordinate, his feelings hadn't changed. After losing to her, his marriage obsession spiked, leaving Leona completely speechless. This guy and Zeros would get along perfectly. "I'm not marrying you, my goal is to become the Empress." Rodri wasn't discouraged by her rejection. After all, he'd have plenty of chances in the future. Before leaving, he warned her to watch out for the 6th Princess Sherry. She wasn't as innocent as she seemed. Now, pay attention here. Why is everyone warning her about Sherry? Was she actually dangerous? Just then, a panicked maid rushed in, asking if the princess had been inside her palace this entire time. When Leona said yes, the maid froze in confusion. Then who was that identical double walking through the garden? Keith panicked upon seeing her too. "Princess, weren't you just dining with me in the hall a few minutes ago? How could you be here the whole time?" Something was definitely wrong. Something extremely bizarre was happening. Leona stops him, insisting she is fine, and begs them to end the fight. Hearing this, Nicole instantly covers her mouth, though her pure joy leaves Leona absolutely speechless. Overnight, Leona's entire attitude shifted. She didn't just throw the flowers Nicole lovingly gathered onto the cold ground. She also slapped her maid without giving a single explanation. Turns out, While they discussed these palace mysteries, several nobles swore they saw Leona wandering outside in the garden. At first, they wanted to approach her to get on her good side. But to their shock, the moment they greeted her, she burst into tears and ran away desperately. Wasn't Her Highness the princess supposed to be incredibly strong and powerful? Why is she crying like a spoiled brat? They immediately decided to report this bizarre event to the fourth imperial consort. You and I both know this is a total trap, right? Upon hearing this, Herrick was shocked. How could the terrifying princess cry over something so incredibly stupid? He went to find her to verify the rumors. If those nobles dared to upset you, I'll teach them a lesson right now. Suddenly, Nickel gently cups her face again, pleading with her not to be sad. Surprisingly, Leona assured him she'd been locked inside all day and never once left her room. Don't tell me you saw a ghost. Hearing her, Herrick faked crying in a hilarious way. Before leaving, he asked her to warn him immediately if she noticed any other bizarre behavior. After he left, Leona reviewed the strange events of the past few days and began connecting the clues. Meanwhile, Nicole had prepared a beautiful bouquet of flowers he gathered early in the morning for Leona. He was absolutely sure his little bunny would love them. But leaving his palace, he saw something that froze him. It was Leona insulting a maid and slapping her repeatedly. Then she approached Nicole with an annoyed face. Are those flowers supposed to be for me? Without letting him answer, she snatched the bouquet, threw it down, and stomped on it with sheer rage. Only an idiot would like this trash. Stay away from me and don't ever bother me again. Your big brother will always protect you. I promise no one will ever hurt you. The next target was Harek. Without a word, she summoned a fire arrow and shot it. I truly hate you. I could give you 100 different reasons why I despise you so much. Harik stood frozen, drowning in deep confusion and pain. Meanwhile, this fake Leona headed off to find Lynn. Lynn greeted her with her usual warmth, asking how she was feeling. But she snapped back in fury. Who do you think you are? A mere nanny shouldn't act so bold with me. That is all for today, but you and I know the upcoming revenge is going to be epic. That is it. Let everyone around you abandon you one by one. And once you are alone, I will steal your power and end you. But watch this maid grab the fake Leona. You are not the princess. The fake completely panics, desperately struggling to break free from her grip. Before the maid can even react, the imposter quickly escapes the room. Keith joins the solemn oath, swearing that as the princess's sword he would gladly die protecting her. Desperate, the maid searches the entire palace, finally finding the real Leona inside the library with her friends. Before she can speak, Leona cuts her off. Lynn, did I do something wrong to you today? It turns out the real Leona already knew. Once she hears the report, the library atmosphere turns ice cold. She actually dared to lay a hand on my people. Wait here, I have some business to settle. Meanwhile, Sherry wonders how that maid exposed her perfect disguise. Suddenly, a stone flies out of nowhere, hitting her right in the back of the head. Spinning around, she is shocked to find Leona standing inside her room completely unnoticed. I did not plan on stooping to your level, but pay attention, you made a huge mistake messing with my people. With that, she summons glowing spheres of pure magic and fires them directly at Sherry. Instantly, a massive blast rocks the room, leaving Sherry brutally wounded and barely recognizable. Look, you already have 2 guardians by your side, with many more to come. So, smile, little bunny. Yet, she still tries to play the victim, asking Leona why she is attacking her. I do not care if you try making a fool out of me, but you never touch my people. They are my family, and I am the only one allowed to mess with them." Hearing this, Sherry drops her act. Did you not want to be empress? That path only leads to absolute bitter loneliness. One day those people will just become a massive burden to you. If someone threatened their lives to get to you, what would you do? Leona freezes completely speechless at this tough question. But she soon finds her answer, and I bet you can already guess it. She just has to get stronger than everyone. You only ask that because you are far too weak to protect the people you actually care about. Tears fill Sherry's eyes as those harsh words stab straight into the deepest part of her heart. Her expression darkens, and she summons a dark magic circle that completely paralyzes Leona. This was a forbidden, powerful spell entrusted to her by her own mother. Leona hesitates, wondering deep down if she can truly trust them. She is absolutely certain that at Leona's current power level, escaping this is completely impossible. Leona also knows that to break free from these chains, she would have to unleash every ounce of her hidden strength. But doing that would demolish the entire palace and kill Sherry. Just as the darkness almost swallows her whole, a massive, violent storm suddenly rips through the room. Suddenly, a pair of giant hands reach out and grab Leona tightly. It is Zero's. "Princess, I kept my word and made it on time." He actually pulled it off. Zero's showed up at the absolute last second, saving Leona right when she was close to death. "I promised I would keep you safe, and I did, but that boast only earns him a heavy karate chop to the head from Leona. I was stuck there forever before you showed up, and you still have the nerve to try acting cool." Even though the hit stung, Zero's shrugs it off. "So what should we do with this thing?" Leona looks at him in confusion. What thing? Her, obviously. Want me to take her out? Leona finally realizes exactly what he is talking about. After 300 years of isolation, she finally feels the warmth of being protected, even if it means enduring endless pinching of her chubby, adorable little cheeks. She had almost forgotten her main task. She needed to handle this personally, but to her shock, Sherry speaks up first. "If the Magic Tower Master had not saved you, you would be dead." Leona chooses to be brutally honest. "If I actually unleashed my full power, I would have shattered that spell without breaking a sweat. But if I did, the blast would have killed you, Sherry." Naturally, she does not believe a single word of it. That was a high-tier spell passed down from her mother. But next second, Leona snaps her fingers, summoning the exact same magic to freeze Sherry on the spot. Sherry looks completely horrified. How is this even possible? A spell like this is easily copied. If you truly want to protect your people first, you need to get way stronger. Those words slice deep into Sherry's chest instantly, forcing her to think back to her very own mother. Did she distance herself because she was simply too weak? Afraid her mother would become her ultimate vulnerability. She lacked the courage to face her, but deep down she only wanted to protect her mother from harm. Stop it. I am not some helpless toddler. I am a great witch with over 300 years of life. In this brutal game of succession, family is a liability, and that is where we leave today's intense chapter. Let us dive into this emotional journey where Sherry cannot stop crying desperately, wishing she could just go home to her mother. Right then, she stopped fighting entirely, letting the heavy, suffocating darkness completely consume her whole. Calling herself a coward, her only wish was never to be reborn into this royal family in her next life. Suddenly, Leona grabs her arm, pulling her out of the shadows and demanding to know why she will not fight back. "Do you really want to die that badly?" "Listen up. I will become the Empress, but I would never kill you, and I am definitely not low enough to use your mother to blackmail you. If you want to see your mother so badly, go to her. I will keep her safe myself." Deep down, Leona was actually jealous because Sherry at least had a mother. Even though Leona lived 2 whole lives, she never knew hers. Hearing this, Sherry finally broke down and sobbed. In her heart, she promised to bring her mother back tomorrow and protect her with everything she had.